This time, Marvin fell silent for a long time. It was only when the ember of his cigarette burned his hand that he seemed to come to his senses. What if I no longer pursue other women in the future? He kept his head down, not looking at me. Nicole Murphy, we've been together for so many years. I admit, I really can't live without you. I will try to change. Will you give us another chance? Ding! Wisnovel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. Hearing these words from Marvin was truly unexpected. In the past, he would tirelessly brainwash me. Men are all the same. Men have to socialize. It's just a game. They won't affect you. Why do you care so much? He was certain I wouldn't leave, so he never needed to consider my feelings. His words haunted me in the midnight hours, torturing myself over and over, cutting myself emotionally. And now, he was telling me that he would mend his ways. I believed that Marvin was sincere in this moment. He was a man who disdained lying. Sometimes I even wished he would deceive me, so I wouldn't be so pitifully real. A message came in. I opened it. It was Luther Holland. I have a graduation party tomorrow. Others can bring their lovers. Can I bring mine? I couldn't help but smile. Luther always tried every means to make our relationship public, especially after that day. He couldn't help but want to be with me 24 hours a day. Even though he was so good-looking and talented, surrounded by countless young girls, I was starting to like him more and more. I pushed open the car door and gave Marvin a smile. No, I found someone I want to be with. In the Rolls-Royce, there was a glass barrier between Marvin and me. He sat in the lingering smoke, his expression inscrutable. He seemed to say something. Unfortunately, it was too far for me to hear clearly. I moved out of the house. Before, Marvin often didn't come home, and I gradually got used to being alone. However, recently he seemed like a different person, coming home every day on time, just like clocking in. He would come home and roll up his sleeves to cook, and at night, he would insist on sleeping with me, which scared me so much that I had to lock the door. Every morning, I could see the ashtray filled with cigarette butts. Marvin is a very disciplined person when it comes to smoking. I rarely saw him let go like this. He started reminiscing about the past, about when we were poor, and shared a hamburger. He mentioned the times when I finished work late, couldn't catch the bus, and couldn't bear to spend money on a taxi, so he would ride a shared bike to pick me up every day. I would hold on to him and tell him about my day on the way home. Although we were poor back then, we were quite happy. Marvin's expression carried a hint of nostalgia, but I just found it boring. I had already reminisced about these things too many times in the past few years, and I had repeated them to him too many times. Talking about it again now just felt dull. He seemed to really want to reconcile with me, leaving the company matters to his assistant and spending every day at home with me. I was so annoyed that I decided to pack up and leave. The day I left, Marvin didn't stop me. He just looked a bit sad. As I was about to enter the elevator, he finally spoke. Nicole, I won't stop you from seeing him. It's fine if you want to have fun with him, but we won't divorce, okay? Will it feel fair if I endure all the pain you've suffered? He said this with great difficulty, and it seemed humiliating as well. For Marvin, this was indeed an unexpected concession. No, it's not possible. I turned around. He's eager to marry me. Marvin finally agreed to the divorce. The condition was that he wanted to meet Luther Holland. The three of us got into a car, with Luther sitting in the passenger seat and Marvin sitting in the back, looking a bit grim, but not saying anything in the end. Just as I started the car to leave, a red SUV suddenly rushed out from the side. At a glance, I recognized it as Shane Webster's car. That car was bought by Marvin for her, and at that time, we had a big argument because of it. It was a narrow road, and I couldn't avoid it. Through the windshield, I could vaguely see Shane's face, twisted in anger, shouting, "Go to hell!" In that instant, Marvin sitting in the back suddenly lunged towards me, as if trying to protect me. Luther was restrained by the seatbelt and couldn't move, and my instinctive reaction was to throw myself onto Luther. Boom! Shane stepped on the gas, and the two cars collided violently. In the final moment, I only felt someone's hand protecting my head. Then I lost consciousness. When I woke up, all I could see was a white ceiling. I belatedly smelled the lingering scent of disinfectant. Awake? The nurse glanced at me and skillfully changed my foredrip. Do you remember the car accident? It's nothing serious. Your husband and your brother are really good to you, both protecting you. You just have some scratches. Later, see if you feel nauseous or dizzy. Check for signs of a concussion. I was suddenly shocked. What about Luther? He's that young man in sportswear. Oh, your brother is slightly injured. The nurse checked my temperature. He used his upper body to protect your head. He fractured 2 fingers and got a bump on the head, but it's not a big problem. He doesn't play the piano, does he? I shook my head lightly, biting my lower lip. And the other one? I still remembered that before the accident, Marvin threw himself on me trying to protect me. My emotions were complicated. I didn't understand why Marvin did that. He didn't care about me. He hurt me, but in the end, he risked his life to protect me. Why did he do that? The nurse fell silent for a moment and comforted me. He's a bit more seriously injured. If he had just stayed put in the back, there wouldn't have been a problem. But he insisted on coming over to protect you. He fractured 2 ribs, and one was only 0.8 centimeters away from piercing his heart. He's still in the ICU. Don't worry too much. He's been rescued. I lowered my eyelids. I didn't understand why Marvin did that. It seemed like I had never truly seen this person. Marvin woke up 3 days later. Fortunately, his physical condition had always been good, and after a few days of recovery, he was transferred to a regular ward. Luther didn't come in with me. He said at the door, "I won't come in. You two probably have a lot to talk about." I nodded and pushed open the door. Just a few days apart, Marvin seemed like a different person. He had been sustaining himself with glucose and nutrients all these days, and he had lost a lot of weight. Dressed in a hospital gown with a stubbly beard, he looked somewhat frail. I sat beside him, and neither of us spoke. After a few minutes, I broke the silence. "Why did you save me?" At that time, Shane was coming towards me. The police said she had been squatting near me for 3 days, planning to murder me. If Marvin hadn't protected me, I would have been seriously injured too. He was supposed to be safe in the back seat. Marvin smiled. "It's not that complicated." My brain wasn't even functioning at the time. The atmosphere fell silent again. After a long time, he looked out the window. "Perhaps you were much more important to me than I thought. Nicole, all these years, I always thought I didn't love you anymore. There are so many new and fresh girls outside. I can't handle them all. They all adore me. They all try to please me. Unlike you, you never adored me because you've seen me at my lowest. Whenever I see you, I think of the times when I was poor. Who would like to think of their miserable days? So, consequently, I didn't want to see you either. I thought I didn't love you anymore." He frowned, seeming a bit lost. "But it's strange. When that car came towards us, all I could think about was not letting anything happen to you. I don't even understand it myself." I couldn't understand it either. Perhaps the human heart is just that complex, making it incomprehensible even to oneself. I twisted my fingers, unsure of what to say. Marvin forced a smile, but it looked painful. "I thought you would always love me. Back then, when I was with someone else, and you were so upset, I thought you would always be waiting for me. During the accident, you went to protect Luther, right? Nicole, you are so silly. You are willing to give your all to whoever you love, which is quite a disadvantage. Do you know that?" I lowered my head. I used to think Marvin didn't love me anymore, but during the accident, he chose to protect me at all costs. I also used to think I would love Marvin forever, but at that moment, I chose someone else. It's quite ridiculous. "Nicole," Marvin called me. I looked up. "Yes?" He forced a smile that was more painful than crying. "Let's get a divorce. I'll let you go. Just leave." I forced a bitter smile and stood up. "Okay." As I was about to leave the ward, Marvin called out to me, "Nicole." I turned back, and his eyes seemed slightly red, or maybe it was just my imagination. Marvin seemed like he had been crying. "What's wrong?" He looked at me for a long time, then sneered. "It's nothing. Just get away from me with your man. Stay out of my sight. It's annoying." His voice trembled, unable to hold back anymore. The setting sun shone through the yellowed window, casting light on him. Half of Marvin's face was hidden in the shadow. He looked like a lost traveler abandoned by someone, hoping that person would turn back, but unwilling to say it out loud. I suddenly remembered how he looked when we first met. It was also at sunset like this. He turned back, with a smile in his eyes and eyebrows. "Hey, lend me a pen." In a blink of an eye, more than 10 years had passed. We had been weathered by the sands of time, both unrecognizable. I had nothing more to say. I could only leave with a final word, "Okay." Shane Webster's life was spared. She didn't die. But with a fractured spine, she might have to lie in bed for the rest of her life. I went to see her, and she seemed to hate me even more, crazily hurling insults at me. The words were so harsh that I didn't want to say much. I just glanced at her and left. Before leaving, I couldn't help but show her my Hermes bag, which she had wanted Marvin to buy for her, but Marvin always forgot. She was furious, her eyes almost popping out, but she couldn't move at all, only able to watch me leave with a calm demeanor. I don't know if she will recover, but even if she does, legal consequences await her. I married Luther a year after my divorce from Marvin. Marvin didn't come, but sent a big red envelope. He couldn't help but sarcastically call me, "This diamond ring is too tacky. The small diamonds on the ring I bought you are not this tacky." That's when I realized he must have secretly come to see me, but didn't meet me. We hadn't spoken for a long time, not knowing what to say. After a while, he whispered, "Nicole, if he treats you badly, come back to me." I smirked. "You must be dreaming." He retorted, "I was just joking, and you actually believed it. Let me tell you, divorcing me will be the biggest regret of your life. You won't find a man as good as me again." I shook my head with a smile. Before hanging up, Marvin whispered, "Nicole, I'm sorry for the past. I wish you happiness." I closed my eyes. "Marvin, I wish you happiness too. This time I mean it." Luther, not far away, called out to me loudly, "Honey, come eat." Marvin heard it and silently hung up the phone. I rubbed my face. Coming. Some people are not unloving. It's just destined that their paths are shallow, but their feelings are deep, fated to not be together. Being together will only cause each other pain. Rather than tormenting each other till old age, it's better to let go and give each other a way out. Marvin Burden. I hope this time, we can both be happy. Marvin Burden's perspective. The first time I saw Luther Holland, the man who accompanied Nicole home, was the day he escorted her to the doorstep. Nicole stood in front of him, smiling happily. I was momentarily literally stunned. How long has it been since Nicole smiled at me like this? She used to love smiling, but I can't remember the last time she smiled at me when we were together. It might have been since the first time she caught me with another woman outside. I can't recall. She seems really happy now. For some reason, I feel a little uncomfortable. I know that Nicole sometimes sees other men, and I know she does it to provoke me, so I don't really care. But this time, it feels different. When we got home, I purposely took off my clothes in the living room, revealing the marks Shane left on my back. In the past, these marks would drive Nicole crazy. She would cry, curse at me, smash everything in sight, and end up silently shedding tears alone. I used to find her reactions annoying. Once a man has money and power, desires come knocking. Those women flock to me, but I don't always indulge. I'm no saint. Why can others tolerate it, but she can't? Initially, I felt sorry seeing her cry, feeling like I owed her something after all these years together. But eventually, I became numb to it. The more she cried, the more irritated I got. Yet today, she acted as if she hadn't seen anything, holding her phone with a constant smile on her face. I deliberately moved in front of her, but she just furrowed her brows, grabbed her phone, and went back to her room. Something's not right, but I reassured myself. It must be one of her tactics, playing hard to get. Nicole loves me so much. She can't leave me. It wasn't until Nicole mentioned divorce that I felt like something was slipping out of my control. Unlike before, this time Nicole divided our assets very clearly. It was evident that she had been preparing for a long time. I asked her if she was serious about that man. She blushed and smiled. Yes. In that moment, I felt something inside me snap. Suddenly, all thoughts of playing it cool or not interfering were thrown out the window. I grabbed her, and she knew me too well. She must have seen the fear in my eyes. Through gritted teeth, I threatened her. Dream on if you think you can divorce me. How could Nicole possibly divorce me? How could we possibly get a divorce? How could she possibly want to leave me? The thought of her falling in love with someone else made my heart ache terribly, as if I had been stabbed unexpectedly, leaving me breathless. Strangely, at that moment, I realized, this is what heartache feels like. No wonder she used to cry. I wanted to reason with Nicole. She's not stupid. She should know that being with me is the best choice. I admit I may have gone too far before, but I'll try to rein it in. I had rehearsed many words in my mind, but when I saw the love bites on her neck, I forgot everything. In that instant, I wanted to smash everything in sight. I want to question her about what she really wants. I even thought about stabbing her, and then myself. How could she betray me? Just a few months ago, she was crying herself to sleep over my late nights, with tears on her pillow. And now, in just a few months, she's fallen in love with someone else? But she just sneered at me. What? You don't recognize what those marks on someone else mean? At that moment, I suddenly couldn't speak. Yes, I was the one who said we shouldn't interfere with each other. I was the one who cheated first. Do I have any right to blame her? I assent this what I wanted? The young and vibrant bodies in my arms, I was addicted to that fresh feeling. The girls looked up to me, saying how great I was. They never saw me at my worst. It's not that I liked them, but I liked the image of myself in their eyes. Perfect, powerful. Unlike how Nicole saw me, I know she endured so much with me. I shouldn't have done this. But every time I'm with her, a voice in my head reminds me of my past. She brings up old things after an argument, trying to make me change my mind. She doesn't know. I hate hearing about those things. I've succeeded. I want to cut off my past failures, including her. I didn't sleep all night. Every time I close my eyes, the marks on Nicole's neck appear before me. I can't help but think about it. How lost she looked. How she held on to that person. How intimate she was with someone else. Each scene felt like a knife, cutting away at my heart. But I can't control myself. As dawn approached, I wiped a tear from my eye, moist and cold. Oh, I cried. I couldn't help but laugh, the laughter getting louder. Is this my retribution? The tears I made Nicole shed are now flowing from my eyes. Now I understand how important she is to me. She's in my blood and bones. Every move she makes is a painful reminder. I just never realized it before. Nicole seems determined to divorce me. I pretended to agree, saying I wanted to meet that man. I wanted her to see the difference between us. What can that poor man offer her? I wanted to bet that she would change her mind. After all these years together, entangled with each other, if we were to separate, we would both lose a part of ourselves. She will come to understand. I never expected Shane to come driving over. She was just someone I used to pass the time when I was bored. I didn't really like her that much. She just happened to look a bit like Nicole. I liked the way she looked at me with those eyes, resembling Nicole's, with a look of admiration and infatuation. I didn't want to be involved with her anymore. I never expected her to be so extreme. At that moment, before I could react, my body lunged forward. All I could see was Nicole. Before darkness fell, two fleeting thoughts crossed my mind. I hope she's okay. She'd choose that man in the end. During those 3 days of unconsciousness, I dreamt. It was about my past, and Nicole. From her youthful school uniform appearance, to sharing a hamburger with me, to her happy face on our wedding day. Finally, her sitting amidst chaos, crying and saying she hated me. I must have caused her so much pain, I think. She was always someone who loved to smile. What have I done? I suddenly felt so much pain, struggling to open my eyes. When I saw Nicole again, then, I agreed to divorce. Saying those words was even more painful than I had imagined. I felt like I was on the verge of collapsing, but she probably wanted to leave me. I have made her suffer for so long. Should I continue to hold her captive and not let her go? I wanted to see her smile, even if it wasn't for me. So I forced a smile and casually said, "It's okay, just go far away with that man of yours. Don't let me see you again. You're a nuisance." She looked at me for a long time, finally smiling. "Okay." I wanted to tell her not to leave. "Nicole, don't leave me. I can give you anything you want. Please don't go." I hoped she would look back at me one more time, but she never turned back. I finally understood. She really didn't love me anymore. If this is what you want for happiness, that's okay. You can leave completely, leaving all the entanglements with me. Because this is my retribution. I suddenly realized this is the punishment she has given me. I will spend the rest of my life trapped in the memories she left me with.